Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Percy.
Topic is Tantra.
The topic is Tantra. So what is Tantra, and can it improve your sex life? We're going to allow you to make that decision, but I'm happy to talk a lot about what Tantra is, at least as I experience it. There are a lot of definitions of it. And any questions you can post below. Emily will be asking some questions too, so we'll just see what comes up.
I'm the newbie in this, so I've got the beginner's mind, and Percy has gone to trainings on it and he practices it.
So a lot of people who know that I'm into Tantra ask me what it is. It's been hard for me to define, but I would say Tantra is a spirituality, a philosophy that embraces every single thing about life as a path to spiritual awakening. What that means is it embraces stuff like meditation, stuff like relationship, and also sex and work. All of those can be spiritual experiences.
And I think maybe some people might have the question, well, what is spiritual awakening?
Yeah.
I'll share what my definition is based on the spiritual path that I've been on.
Perfect.
I didn't even know I was on the spiritual path after jumping to entrepreneurship in 2012. Because entrepreneurship, they don't say this, but it's first and foremost a spiritual journey. Because when you're putting yourself out there, it's going to bring up everything inside of you that you haven't addressed. Your fears, your darkness, your insecurities. Thankfully, by the time I jumped into entrepreneurship, 10 years prior, I had gone through a period of depression and anxiety because of unaddressed childhood issues that ended up having me go into PTSD and panic attacks. And so fortunately, I was able to heal the little Emily's inside of me that were still frozen in old emotional events that had me believing that I'm not worthy, I'm not enough. And so after a layoff from a pharmaceutical company in 2011, 2012 is when I jumped in, and little did I know that the biggest gift that I was given was being in that depression 10 years prior to heal all those little girls inside, because I knew that with the gifts that I had been given by my creator and all the corporate experiences that I had had, I knew that I was meant to make impact in some way. And what it needed was to me to get in spiritual alignment, to understand who I am. So spirituality is about coming home to center. How do you get centered? How do you find your true self? The true self is full of love for ourselves, and especially for the love for our broken parts and love for others. Because if you don't love yourself, then how can you have compassion for others' pains and what they're going through? So for me, spirituality has been really understanding who I am, connecting the dots in my life, looking backwards and saying that, wow, every single pain in my life was purposely given to me for the evolution of my soul. And it was up to me to heal and be thankful for those wounds that made me who I am today. So I wouldn't be who I am today if I had not gone through those wounds. And so thank goodness. And that's spirituality for me, spiritual awakening, and understanding myself, understanding all the different parts, the multiple personalities that we have inside, the little characters that run our lives, and we all have that. And it's being able to courageously and vulnerably speak for those parts of us that sometimes act out and that want to express nasty things. You know, we get triggered. Even though we're on a spiritual path, I still get triggered. So to me, it's self-awareness.
Yeah, so self-awareness, I like that. The sense of coming back home, being fully aware of who you are and at home in who you are or what you are. I guess one way to characterize a spiritual path is perhaps being in that place where you're yearning, where there is something more to this experience of life, and you might not feel like you're getting all of it. And a spiritual path is what helps you to get the fullness of life. We're all yearning for something full, something whole, and coming into that wholeness within yourself and within this life experience. Someone once said that all yearning is the yearning for God, or all yearning is the yearning for experiencing the wholeness of who you are. And that's a quote actually from a Tantra book, Christopher Wallis, Tantra Illuminated. is a great resource on Tantra as a spirituality and gives historic context and all of that.
And how that gets brought into sex and lovemaking. If you don't understand who you are and have done the inner work through therapy or coaching, the internal family systems model is really one of the most powerful paths that you could take. This is what Percy and I are both trained in. And so we're trying to teach all of this, the depth of how to get in touch with our soul, how to have satisfying sex lives and relationships, because it's all about getting in touch with who we are and being able to express all of the parts of us. And Tantra is a methodology and a framework and a paradigm through which you can look at how can I bring all the parts of me into the bedroom.
Wow. Right. Well, Tantra is, right, it does talk about the bedroom. It talks about all 360 degrees of life. Talking about Tantra is the spirituality that's been around for 2,000 plus years. Some may argue even longer than that. And a very small part of it has to do with sexuality. As Tantra is discussed in the newer versions of it, it does emphasize sexuality, and I think it probably does need to, because a lot of us, I'd say, particularly in the Western world, the place where we're the most clueless in life is around sexuality and around relationships. We don't know how to bring spirituality into that, which is why the sort of, neo-tantra or new age tantra is primarily so focused in sex, because that's where spirituality is lacking. So that being said, Tantra is about all 360 degrees of life, and newer versions of Tantra do tend to focus on sexuality, because that's where, I believe that's where a lot of spirituality is missing.
Teach me, how would that show up in the bedroom?
Let's talk about the philosophy of Tantra as a whole, and then go to the bedroom. What we're talking about here is two aspects of life, of reality, of all aspects of reality, that always come together, and there's never a moment without it. One aspect of reality, of who we are and what this reality is just the witness, the unchanging consciousness. You're watching the two of us, but there's someone there who's looking through your eyes and watching us. That's the witness. It's always there, regardless of whatever is being witnessed. And then there's the manifest of that light that you're seeing, everything that is changing.
What does that mean?
What does what mean? The light?
The light.
The light is literally what you're witnessing is everything coming in through the senses. So there's sound, there's light.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the five senses.
So yeah, the five senses, and also thought. The thought is changing. The emotions, interoception is there. Everything that's being witnessed is the other aspect. So there's the witness and that which is being witnessed. And all aspects of life have that. Tantra typically defines these as the masculine and the feminine aspects of life. That might not be helpful, because in the West we have so many things that are attached with masculinity and femininity and so many complexes around it, that it might just be best to define it in terms of, consciousness and light, or consciousness and the senses.
So it's like the opposites, the yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang, right, exactly.
The black and the white. Not judging if black is worse than white.
Right.
No,
neither of them are, it's not about, yin and yang was never about good and evil, but it's about the aspect that's expressive, which is the light. That's what's white in the yin yang symbol. The white is actually the expressive aspect, which is the yang. And the yin is the dark aspect, which is the pure witness, the pure consciousness. In Tantra, Shiva is the masculine principle, which is the witness, and Shakti is the expressive principle, the light, expressive aspect. And so that's Shakti, that's the feminine aspect. We all have both. This isn't really associated with the masculine and feminine. It really isn't associated with gender. It's more just two aspects of who we are. So we are both the witness and what's being expressed, where we are our body, our voice, our ego. All of that is part of the expressive aspect of our consciousness, of our awareness. They always come together, which means they're two aspects of the same thing. They're inseparable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if I got this right.
Mm-hmm. So you're trying to bring it into the bedroom?
Yes.
Okay.
Just so that they can understand this light, dark, yin, yang thing.
Right. In Tantra, the way of sexuality being a spiritual practice, as a byproduct, developing sexual tension.
That's big. Sexual tension.
Yeah.
That's what makes sex hot.
So creating a sexual polarity there is that one partner will play the role of the consciousness, the conscious, mindful guide and container of the experience. And I want to be clear, I say guide, not God. The other one being the one who is surrendering and expressing.
So what I'm hearing is this is about the dance of the person who surrenders and then the other one who's giving.
Yes.
Because you can't have two people giving at the same time, and you can't have two people surrendering at the same time. What's going to happen? Nothing.
Think of it as giving and receiving. The one who is giving and directing the experience is the consciousness, and the other is receiving and just expressing what comes up. It's the surrender to the moment. As far as the philosophy that the teachers that I have are, part of something called the New Tantra. It's a Tantra school centered in Scandinavia, and they give really awesome workshops. In that sense, it's healthy for a partnership, any partnership of any makeup of genders, to both play each role. Right?
That's what makes it fun.
That's what makes it fun. If it's the same way all the time, then one partner is eventually going to be burned out. Usually the one who is playing the role of consciousness and making everything happen is going to get burnt out. Both partners need to try receiving and giving.
One person may not be as comfortable giving, but that's also their growth edge. And hopefully that the person who is not used to giving can share that vulnerability of, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not used to giving. I'm used to receiving.
Right.
And hopefully the other person can say, I'm going to hold space for you to experiment with this part of you that's been locked up in the closet. And so I'm giving you permission for this part of you to come out and try different things.
Right.
And that creates intimacy and connection just in that vulnerability.
Right. Tantra is there in the individual experience, seeing myself as the witness and the consciousness and guiding where my life wants to go. That would be the expression of that life being I'm trying so hard to do this without saying masculine and feminine, but because they just bring up so much. The light aspect, the expressive aspect, is what's receiving and being guided, and the consciousness aspect is really acting upon the light. That's like a meditative aspect. You're witnessing your breath. The witness is, the Shiva, the masculine aspect, and the breath is the feminine aspect of who you are, and everyone has both. When you're in the bedroom, you are basically creating tension because you're taking two things that are inseparable, and you're having one play the role of the Shakti, of the expressive surrender, and the other play the role of Shiva, who's the consciousness and acting upon the Shakti aspect. A lot of schools of Tantra, you will switch roles.
So I think this is where, once you get used to each other, it's long-term relationships, and they want to, how do I spice this up? This is where they need to begin to explore the different parts of them and have the deep and vulnerable conversations.
Right.
And then for those people in newer relationships, or in the dating scene, post-divorce, post-breakup, that is where, when you understand this, when you start to get courageously vulnerable, this is a way of doing things differently.
I have some links to some Tantra resources. Christopher Wallis for the spiritual angle. Deida talks a lot about the sexual dynamic. Osho does comment on both. There are two very good resources from Osho on Tantra that we'll link you to. And also the New Tantra workshop, the New Tantra website also has some beautiful resources and opportunity to go to trainings as well.
Sounds good.